Overall, just generally, what do you make of the state releasing more wolves, some of which are in your district?
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting day to say the least. I am sharing in the anxiety and concern that a lot of my constituents feel right now. I don't think it's any surprise that more wolves have been reintroduced. The state is carrying out their mandate under state law, as narrowly passed by the voters. But there's obviously been a lot of controversy and concerns and valid objections to the way that the first year or so of this program has rolled out, and this is also coming very quickly after the emotional CPW commission hearing that happened less than 2 weeks ago, where ranchers were asking for more help and support through a petition that ultimately got denied, but some commitments by CPW were made to provide more support. So I think overall it's a day of concern, but also hopefully um, a better process moving forward. I don't think this is an ideal situation for a lot of people, but given the circumstances, I'm hoping that this next few months goes a lot better than it did last year.
What can you describe the communication that you've had with CPW over the last week and a half or so?
Yeah, it was improved from what it was back in December of 2023, when those wolves were released in part of my Senate district. I didn't find out until after it happened. I actually found out on Twitter through the fancy video that CPW put out of the governor opening the cages. This time, I was notified along with other legislators and local officials that these were the counties that they were considering. We learned that over a month ago, I believe. And then, when operations commenced, they let us know that they were beginning. And then I received notification yesterday that they had been released in various locations in Eagle and Pitkin counties. So communication was better. I think there's still valid questions about some of the transparency in this, but it was certainly improved from December of 2023.
That timeline, from what I read, I believe they've released the first wolves last weekend. I think on the 13th or last Monday, I guess. So, are you okay with getting told days later?
Yeah, I mean, I guess if that's the case, and I don't know, I haven't received those details yet either. All I received yesterday was notification that the operation was complete and that a press release was going to be released in about 2 to 3 hours from what I knew. So yeah, I mean, so that means that wolves were on the ground for close to a week before the public knew. My concern isn't necessarily about me, and this is not about me and my knowledge. This is about the nearby landowners and the ranchers. All I can hope for is that CPW's is honoring their word of conducting site assessments and giving those local landowners and nearby ranchers the tools that they need to deal with wolves on the landscape. They said they were going to do that. They said that they were going to conduct all those assessments to reduce conflict. All I know right now is that that was the word they made, and I hope that that actually happened. And if it didn't happen, we're going to be having some more tough conversations. But as of right now, I hope that the locals who are dealing with this on a daily basis were the ones that got as much information as possible.
I also wanted to ask about the re-release of the Copper Creek wolves. Is or how do you feel about that occurring? You're obviously familiar with what the plan says.
Yeah, so the plan obviously did not recommend or even say that capture and re-release was going to be a part of the way that the state did this reintroduction process. So I still have concerns about why they broke from the plan and what precedent that might set for other decisions in the future. All I know is that the Copper Creek pack was put somewhere that is far away from their original location. And so the likelihood of them returning to that area to continue depredating on the livestock that they were killing before is low. And I hope that that's the case. I hope they strategically chose a specific location for those animals to prevent any further conflict with the Middle Park stock growers and the people that dealt with that. However, they now know how to kill cattle and they have a taste for it, literally. And so I remain concerned about the future of those wolves and the depredation that they may cause.
What else am I not asking? What's on your mind related to wolves?
Yeah, so I mean, the most important thing I believe going forward is CPW made some very strong commitments to implement all seven of the requests that were made in the petition from the Middle Park stock growers and supported by a large part of the state and the agriculture industry and local communities that I represent. My number one priority is that all of those actually get implemented before this calving season when most depredations start to begin with wolves. CPW says they're going to do it, and I am going to do everything I can to make sure that that happens because having a full and robust range rider program in place by the spring is absolutely necessary. Having rapid response teams who can get to the site of a depredation and confirm a wolf kill is absolutely necessary. And I had hoped and strongly pushed CPW to not do new wolves until those were actually in place. They said they didn't have time for that. They had to get these wolves. That's their decision, even though I'm very much opposed to it. But the best we can hope for now is that they actually get all these things done before the spring, which is a short runway here. That's just in a couple months. So that's the number one thing that I'm watching that I think the public should be watching is their state agency made these commitments to the people that are most impacted by wolf reintroduction, and they better honor them.
Voice in the back, but I've been covering this with Aaron too. Hi, I'm
Oh,
Ann.
hey, hi
Hi.
there.
Um, you said that the communication has been better, but there are still some valid concerns about transparency. What do you think those are?
Well, I mean, I think as far as the specific locations of where these wolves have been released, I understand and appreciate that CPW employees need to be safe and secure, that they're just doing their jobs, and so the actual specific locations should probably not be released beforehand. But what are we going to learn over the next few days about the locations and where the wolves may have moved after they were released? I think those are valid questions that obviously the constituents I represent want to know, but I think the state as a whole should care about, given that this is all being funded by taxpayer dollars. And then I want constant updates from CPW. My constituents deserve constant updates from CPW about those seven items in the petition and what the status is of them and what the progress is on those being honored. So as of right now, it's just been kind of general broad commitments without a lot of detail. I think CPW could do a better job talking to the public about everything they're doing on a daily basis.
Have you heard from any commissioners out there and what they may have or may not have heard? Have you been talking with them?
Yeah, so when I got a communication from CPW yesterday, I said I'm assuming and I hope that all well, it's five county commissioners in Pickens County, three county commissioners in Eagle County. I hope that all of them are being notified, just like me, of what's happening in their jurisdiction. And they said that that was going to happen. So over the next 24, 48 hours, I'm going to be checking in with all of those commissioners to make sure that that actually did happen. And Pickens County is not in my district, but Eagle County is. And so I have a very close communication with all three of those commissioners about a variety of issues, including this. So I imagine we'll be working together to make sure that they have all the information they need and therefore our constituents have all the information they need.
And Aaron kind of touched on this. Do you think a week is too late to be telling the commissioners? And down here.
Yeah. Look, and you might be talking to somebody at CPW about this. I think there were some pretty serious security issues that were happening, and the interest in them protecting their employees is valid. I wish that weren't happening on either side. These folks are just doing their jobs, and we can have valid disagreements. I'm, very much opposed to wolf reintroduction, but don't think that any CPW employee or state employee should be threatened for just doing their job. So that was a decision they made to protect that security, and not knowing the details of those threats, I couldn't really comment on whether that was wise. Um, the thing about these wolves, and you all know this, is they're released in a specific location, but then they move and they move rapidly and they move to a vast range. And so it's going to be about the communication going forward for me to make sure people are well aware of what's going on.